The sound of distant thunder rumbled through the air as Reamer stepped off the bus in Redline, the cool air biting at his skin like 1,000 tiny knives. The sky above seemed to darken, as if the very heavens themselves were warning him away. In the depths of Redline, a man named Reamer emerged from the shadows, his eyes fixed on a fate that seemed all but sealed. He'd been corresponding with a pen pal behind bars, exchanging letters and stories like old friends. But one fateful visit, Reamer's desires got the better of him. As he sat across from his pen pal in the prison's visitation area, the cold fluorescent lights overhead seemed to hum in sync with the tension between them. Reamer's pen pal had been friendly, even warm in their letters, and Reamer had misread the signals. He leaned in, his lips puckered, and planted a kiss on his pen pal that wasn't wanted. The pen pal's eyes widened in surprise and he pulled away, his face a mix of discomfort and annoyance. The other inmates in the visitation area snickered and whispered to each other, their voices like a cold breeze on a winter night. One of them, a burly man with a cruel grin, chuckled and said something under his breath, making the others laugh. The moment hung in the air, awkward and uncomfortable, as Reamer's pen pal tried to brush off the incident and maintain some semblance of normalcy. The ominous hum of a bass guitar echoed through the air as Reamer made his way to the meeting spot, a nondescript alley behind a family dollar store. That's where they were waiting for him. A group of shadowy figures, their faces twisted with malice. The music grew louder, a haunting melody that seemed to match the pounding of Reamer's heart. The air was thick with tension, heavy with the weight of foreboding. Reamer's anxiety grew with each step, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. He knew he was in trouble, but he didn't know how much. As Reamer approached, the group's leader, a towering figure with a scar above his left eyebrow, sneered at him. "You're the one who thought you could just kiss someone without permission, huh?" The music swelled, a discordant note that seemed to pierce the air. Reamer tried to back away, but it was too late. The leader landed a solid punch to Reamer's stomach, doubling him over in pain. The sound of flesh hitting flesh was like a drum beat, a rhythmic accompaniment to Reamer's agony. Reamer's grunt echoed off the alleyway walls as he stumbled backward, his eyes watering from the pain. The group closed in, their fists flying in a flurry of punches and kicks. The music grew more intense, a cacophony of sound that seemed to match the chaos of the beating. Reamer tried to defend himself, but he was vastly outnumbered. A meaty fist connected with his jaw, sending him crashing to the ground. The music reached a crescendo, a deafening roar that seemed to consume everything. Reamer's body felt like it was on fire, every nerve screaming in agony. One of the attackers landed a particularly vicious kick to Reamer's kidneys, making him cry out in pain. The leader spat at Reamer's feet, saying, "This is what you get for thinking you can just do whatever you want." The beating continued, relentless and merciless. Reamer's vision began to blur, and his consciousness started to slip away. The music seemed to grow more frenzied, a mad symphony that echoed through the alleyway. The group's leader stood over Reamer, his eyes blazing with anger. "You're nothing but a pathetic excuse for a human being," he spat. "You think you can just do whatever you want and nobody will care?" The music reached a final ear-shattering crescendo, and Reamer's world went dark. When Reamer came to, he was in the ICU, machines beeping and whirring around him like a mournful dirge. A tube was down his throat, and his body was a map of pain. The clock on the wall read 5:15, but time had lost all meaning. Reamer's gaze drifted around the room, taking in the blur of faces, the soft beeps of the machines. The music had stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence. He tried to speak, but all that came out was a hoarse whisper. He tried to move, but pain washed over him like a wave. As the doctors and nurses tended to Reamer's wounds, they discovered the full extent of his injuries. He had severe bruising and lacerations on his face and body, and his rectum was badly damaged, requiring immediate attention. The medical team worked quickly to stabilize Reamer's condition, and eventually the bleeding stopped from his rectum, but his little lips were busted up as well.